Um, Alrighty. Bitcoin has been doing some nice things for us. We've got a short open on the bot, which has been great. Um, but it's also behaving quite technically, which is good for the technical traders out there. I'll start again with the daily on the Bitcoin just because it's obviously how we've been picking the trend lately. For those that are sort of expecting it to find a bottom somewhere in here and bounce up and break to new all-time highs, I'd probably challenge that. Just be careful with who you follow on social media and stuff, I guess, is a big thing. But basically, I've got the stochastic momentum on here again, just because we are in that sort of the critical zone for it. But I also just wanted to point out we can get a bit of info from it in that divergences on stochastic momentums, I actually prefer them over divergences on RSI. If you get both together, great, but I tend to find that stochastic actually is quite good at finding good turning points on high, in particular higher time frames, but even the lower time frames. For trades, you don't necessarily get like multiple divergences like you can on RSI before you actually get the move, which can make it tricky to pick with RSI. Whereas stochastic, you tend to get pretty clear divergences. So things like here, let's pick an easier one. But basically, this one here, you've got a turn up from outside the sort of no man's land area. It did bounce a little bit, which you would normally expect, obviously. But then it didn't go very far and it's come back down. The fact that this got lower than this point here, but we had a higher price on the turn, that is a pretty strong signal that you're going to go upwards and onwards. So it's just one thing to watch out for. There's another example here in the short side. Basically, the recent top, we got a double top, but we got a very significant divergence on the stochastic momentum between those 2 points. So handy indicator to have on your charts if you're into charting. What I would suggest here is we haven't seen any of that yet. All right. Just because we are below this level too, doesn't mean we can't go further down. Like these bottoms here are minus 69, a good number. Whereas this is where it's 62 at the moment. You come back further and you're getting down to negative 76s and stuff like that. So don't think just because we're in this area and even if we tick up like this that it's actually confirmation we're going higher. Typically you want divergences, but also you can be more confident that you're going back up when you've got when you close back above this minus 40 line. Okay. And realistically, where we're at the moment, we are in pretty well no man's land. Now, I think a few days or weeks ago, they're all merging together at the moment, but some time ago, I think we did actually put in a range somewhere in here. and we said this might actually be a spot where we see a bounce. Now, I might have even done that in a training video for Tradio, for Origin, sorry. Anyway, we have taken out any stop losses for longs that were put in below this wick here, and we are coming into a reasonably well traded level, but a lot of wicks and stuff. So the main support does seem to be at the bottom of this, and it's bounced off that level, at least on this daily candle. But realistically, we are kind of in no man's land in terms of volume as well. So it would make a lot of sense for this particular time frame over the next few days to come down and at least test the bottom of this value area low. Just for those that don't know, the value area high and low are basically just the 70% of the volume for the range that I've selected, which goes back to basically the top of this run. 70% of the volume has been traded within these bounds. Okay, and it can be quite a useful tool for looking for turnarounds and things like that. So basically, I don't expect much more downside today. I think we'll sort of consolidate sideways on the shorter time frames for the rest of the day. There's only 3.5 hours left, and then I'd probably be looking for a bit of a retrace up, actually. Probably back into at least this level here, somewhere around the 65.5 mark would be healthy. Maybe even a little bit higher, but I'm expecting a bit of a retrace of this candle, which is again healthy market moves. As you can see, most candles will have some sort of recovery of at least some of their volume before continuing to the downside or the upside, except for when you got really strong runs. You tend not to get a full recovery. So yeah, basically we could even have a few inside days as well, like these sort of days, although they tend to be more on the weekends. But yeah, don't be surprised if we have a small green day before we actually continue down, just to get everyone's hopes up. Okay, so yeah, overall trend is still down until we see otherwise. Let's go and have a quick look at NASDAQ, having another greenish day. We do have a big options expiry this week as well, so expect quite a bit of volatility at the end of the week. Probably a good week to be looking at Max Payne. Just a good website for that is maximum-pain.com. This one here. And you can actually, it uses the options to basically tell you where maximum pain would be for the market if it was to close at a particular point. And we want the 21st, I believe. So S&P, where's the fucking number? Oh, there we go. So maximum pain would be actually quite a bit lower than where it's at the moment. So we may not hit that. I suspect they're probably going to want to stop it somewhere before that though. So maybe somewhere around the 5,400, but you'd have to get a fair drop over the next couple of days to hit that that particular max pain there. And again, it's still options that are pushing those things higher, and it's still just the big guys. We're now less than 40%, I think, on the where is it? Percentage of stocks. Yeah, percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average is less than 40%. So we've actually had a little bump up now today, because we are seeing a little bit of move up in the actual equal weight S&P 500 as well, which is interesting. Didn't really expect this. It was trending down quite heavily. We've still got a reduction in the global sort of federal bank liquidity, you could call it. So that's an interesting tick up on the stochastic momentum as well. That's suggesting a little bit more upside. And if we look at this particular chart, is a good one. This tracks typical presidential cycles where you have a down midterm year. So that 22 year was the down midterm year. And this is sort of the pink in the background is the trend over history, with the cloud to show you the sort of variation, typical variation. And we are tracking pretty well with that. So typically there is a dip before the election, and then we find the bottom, and then it just keeps going up until January of the following year. And it's surprising how many dips start around January. Like big corrections tend to start around January. So if the economy doesn't shit the bed, in the next few months completely, like if we just get a correction here and we don't get a massive drop, then I would be expecting that bigger drop to happen at the start of next year. Okay, and a decent run up towards the end of the year, which will probably be when we start hitting new all-time highs on Bitcoin, I would think. So somewhere in that August, September area. IWM. Yeah, it's still in a general downtrend on the daily, but a little bit of an uptick there. Industrials, a little bit of an uptick. At the moment, there's no real breakout on these. S&P 500 still pushing new all-time highs. Nvidia's still going strong. I think if Nvidia could potentially hit the 140 mark before the end of the week, I would think. This is why you don't challenge the the extreme zones once you're in these indicators. You want to look for moves out of them, particularly on the longer term time frames. TLT has, I think this is actually trending up now. I would call that a confirmation, a retest and a confirmation of the uptrend over the 200 EMA. High yield junk, still not super interested in that. Skew is still coming down while the S&P is going up, which again is an indicator that we do have a correction coming soon. And I think the options are going to be a big thing. We're either going to correct before the options hit and try and go for that max pain, or the options will expire and then we'll probably head down and go into max pain sort of numbers in terms of that 5150 type area. which would be a decent correction, really. Copper is still struggling. Again, not really supporting the upward movement in the stock market. Just have a quick look at the VIX. Yeah, it's still not doing anything. VIX is still kind of broken. Quick look at the DAX. A little bit of a rebound. It's probably going for a retest of that 50 EMA on the daily. Yeah, I wouldn't expect too much out of this unless we clear at least the moving averages. Realistically, you can't get bullish on it until it sort of breaks above this level here. Alright, have a quick look at the money supplies. They're still, the M2 in particular is going up. Let's see where the Brazilian hit. Looks like it actually, yeah, it's well and truly within that zone that we drew out the other day for Joshua. Yeah, it looks like the dollar is still ruling at the moment, even though we've had a little bit of correction there. A bounce off the top of the Gaussian channel. Expect it to just come back down into this 20 EMA here. You got the 50 pretty close there as well, so would not surprise if it came back in and bounced about that 104.50. All the big guys still kind of trending up, but starting to look a little weaker. Again, we do actually have a divergence here. There was a little one in the middle here as well, but it only led to a fairly short retrace. This one here is happening at sort of higher levels, and it's not a huge sort of difference between these levels, but there is definitely a difference there, and there's a big difference on price. So, expecting when we correct, I'd be looking in these sort of levels here. Most of the big guys will have charts that are sort of heading up like this, and so look for that correction back into the 200 EMA. With probably a pause at sort of the 50 EMA on the way down. Let's have a quick look. The other one was Bitcoin shorts and longs. So, oops. The longs have started to tick back up, which is good. This is what we sort of want to see when we're getting close to sort of basing off. Generally, you want to see people starting to buy in, starting to go long on Bitcoin, and we've finally seen that bit of a tick up. So yeah, I suggest we're getting close to the bottom of this run, which is kind of why I think maybe another couple of days to get down to this level, but I wouldn't, in terms of this run, I'm not expecting us to go too much lower than the bottom of this Gaussian channel before we at least get a decent bounce. So scenario I think is most likely, personally at the moment, and none of this is financial advice, I forgot to say that at the start, but this is just how I'm looking at the market. Potentially move down into here and then sort of come back up, maybe get back up into this most traded zone, but at least the middle of that Gaussian channel, and then we'll have to wait and see what happens then. That's kind of as far as I would predict this at the moment. But you are going to have 50 EMA and stuff in there as well, so longer term, yeah, we might get more of a bounce down. And then that would be probably coinciding with a correction in the overall market as well. And then hopefully we would be finding a bottom at that point. But I think Bitcoin's kind of been ahead of the markets recently. Like this move up here. Sorry, this one from the bottom here. So Bitcoin bottomed well before the S&P 500 did, and Bitcoin had already made its move to the upside before the S&P 500. I think at this stage, it's an early indicator of risk on, risk off. It's not a bad way to look at this. And at the moment, with all the smaller stocks and stuff like that going poorly, it's no real surprise with global liquidity dropping that Bitcoin is actually dropping at the moment as well. It's kind of a risk-off situation we're in. So expect if the S&P does start to finally drop, which it will eventually, Bitcoin will probably follow it for another couple of days or weeks, and then Bitcoin will turn early. So really going to be keeping an eye out for these sort of key levels into the future. I'm probably going to swap into inverse perpetuals for trading at that point, because I've got a feeling that Bitcoin could start a bit of a run after that. All right, quick look at ETH. ETH's doing something similar, no real surprise there. Yeah, nothing to write home about. Most alts got absolutely slammed yesterday. Sol found a bit of a base off the 200 EMA there, which is good, but again, some of these will be interesting to see if they break the range. Yesterday I held the Bitcoin trade when it bounced up a bit. It was a bit nerve-wracking there for a second, but the fact that none of the alts were really following it on that bounce sort of, to me, suggested that it was just Bitcoin trying to suck up some liquidity from the shorts that were taken earlier in the day, and yeah, we saw it roll over and come back down. So it's not a bad thing to just keep looking at alts just to see. Typically, if it's a proper bounce on Bitcoin, the alts will actually follow close behind. But yeah, there's a lot of quite a few bargains out there at the moment. BNB's still holding strong, eh? It's been a massive gainer recently. Anyway, I think I'll sign off there. Not much else to add, really. Oh, sorry. No, I will go into the shorter time frame. So I'll go straight to the. Will we? We've done that. Yeah, we'll have a quick look at the 15-minute. So 15-minute. I'll just throw a stochastic on there as well. So we are getting divergences on the stochastic momentum on the 15-minute. So yeah, no real surprise that we're bouncing at the moment. As to the strength of this bounce will be interesting. Buyers seem to be getting exhausted fairly quickly in this market. We're getting decent volumes now, at least through the Asian session. That's been a big change. We had bugger all volume in the Asian session in that sort of from about mid-April through to most of May, where that was a shit time for bots. That was just a really low liquidity environment. but we are starting to see Asia pick up. We're seeing decent volumes through most of the US session as well. So that is a good sign. Things are improving a little bit for traders, I think, and bots. But yeah, as I said, this buyers are getting exhausted quite quickly. So just be aware of that. We need to start seeing sort of higher highs, higher lows to really confirm that we're out of the woods and into a proper uptrend. But yeah, definitely bullish divergences on the 15-minute at the moment. I think once the CCI crosses that 0 level, we might actually get a bit more of a correction, which would bring us up at least into that 66,500, I would think, which means we're probably going to be closing out that trade relatively soon. For those in Origin that are running the bot, I suspect we're going to close out. We should close out before it gets to sort of 65,100. If we get there, anyway. Looking relatively likely. Okay, that's about it for today. I'll catch you tomorrow.